Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss the basics of the peritoneum. Peritoneum, a very important part of the whole abdomen. Myself Dr. Ankit Khandelwal. Welcome to my YouTube channel Anatomy Explained. In this YouTube channel we try to discuss all the important topics of anatomy, their various concepts. I have a very few of the Facebook pages, groups, Telegram groups. The links of those are in the description box below. So without wasting any further time, let us move on to the topic, that is our peritoneum. So peritoneum, what is this peritoneum, where it is, what does it do, what is the basic anatomy or the basic concept of peritoneum? So peritoneum, by definition, if you talk of peritoneum actually is a not a very loose layer, but it is actually a tough layer of elastic areolar tissue. It is a tough layer of elastic areolar tissue which is lined by simple squamous epithelium, that is known as over here the mesothelium. So it secretes a fluid. So that is a basic idea what is the definition of peritoneum. Now where it is located, the peritoneum is actually located where? Inside the abdominal cavity. Inside the abdominal region, in the abdominal cavity, we have this peritoneum. So location is in the abdominal region. Now what is the role of this? The role of this, or the action or the function of the main this peritoneum is, once you open up the abdomen, in the abdomen there are too many viscera. Apart from the viscera, there is a whole lining of the gut tube. So all the gut tube, all the viscera, they are actually fitted inside a cavity, that is our abdominal cavity. The other thing is, when we start digestion, then the gut tube starts to move, and there happens is known as peristalsis. So there are a lot of stuff which is located inside the abdominal cavity, which moves during peristalsis and which also slightly moves during respiration. When we walk, when we run, all that parts of the viscera, they actually move. So the main role the main role of this peritoneum is to smoothen out every activity. To smoothen out activity means the movement of what? Of the viscera. To smoothen out the movement of the viscera inside the abdominal cavity is the main role of peritoneum. Now how will it do it? It does it by forming a very simple way. If in understanding, if we can try to understand it, then suppose there is balloon over here, okay, and you have to insert your fist inside this balloon. Okay, suppose the balloon is not very tight, it is loosened, some air has leaked out from it. So after a while, what you will do is your fist would be placing where? It would be inside the balloon, and it would be inside the balloon in this fashion. I hope you agree. And the balloon is not very tight. So this fist which is going inside, is actually your viscera over here. This balloon is, now you can see, a double layer. One layer which is facing or just in touch with the viscera, so that is known as the visceral layer. One which is lying outside, that is known as the parietal layer. And you can very imagine also, you can very likely imagine that there would be very small space between them, this space. If it is a peritoneum, we call it as a peritoneal space or peritoneal cavity or peritoneal space over here. So this is how the layers develop. These are known as coelomic layers. The same thing will occur while talking about the development of pleura, in that the lungs go inside it. Development of pericardium, in that the heart go inside it. So there is minimum two layers, one covering the viscera and one outside it, and there is a slit-like space between them. In the diagrammatic form, we try to show you that there is a huge space, but actually it is just a slit-like space. What does it mean? You take few drops of water in your hand and you rub your hand with that water. Your hands will actually move like this, and there is a small film of water between your two palms. The same thing is there in the peritoneum or pleura or pericardium. So one side your visceral, parietal, in this thin film of fluid, that is known as your peritoneal or pleural fluid or pericardial fluid. Okay, so this is how it makes. So its role is, once we open up the abdomen, we will see, if you just imagine over here that suppose this is the abdomen over here. Once you open up the abdomen, then you will be astonished to see how many organs are there. Just to give you a brief idea, you have this huge liver over here, okay, you have this stomach going around over here, then you have this duodenum over here, you have this around 6-meter jejunum and ileum over here, then you have around you can say around 2 meters, you have this large intestine over here, you have the kidneys behind, you have the spleen, pancreas over here. Okay, plus you have all the other connective tissue lying inside it. You can imagine the length around 6 meters of the small intestine. So all these are plus they are also slightly moving during peristalsis. So to smoothen out every activity over here, you have this peritoneum. We'll try to understand how it functions. So this is the two layered over here and how it's going to act. Now a little bit of its embryology is also very important. So in embryology we know that humans, they develop from 3 germ layers. The outer one or the upper one is your ectoderm, the lower one or the ventral one will be your endoderm, and the middle one is the mesoderm. This mesoderm is actually divided into 3 parts. This is divided into 3 parts: paraxial, intermediate, and the lateral plate mesoderm. This is the lateral plate mesoderm. So we just try to label it over here. This is the paraxial mesoderm, which forms somites. This is the intermediate mesoderm, which forms the urogenital structures, and this is your lateral plate mesoderm. Now this lateral plate mesoderm actually divides. There's a formation of cavity inside it. So there's a formation of cavity inside it. So that cavity formation will actually divide this lateral plate mesoderm on both the sides into a layer which is close to the ectoderm and into a layer which is close to the endoderm. So there is a endodermal layer and there is a ectodermal layer, or you can say close to the ectodermal part in lateral plate mesoderm. These are those 2 layers which are actually labeled as, this is be known as a somatic layer of lateral plate mesoderm, and this which is facing the visceral layer, or you can say the endodermal layer, is known as the splanchnic layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Now it is this somatic layer of lateral plate mesoderm which is going to give rise to the parietal layers of the peritoneum, pleura, and pericardium. This splanchnic layer is going to give rise to the visceral layer, pleura, pericardium, and peritoneum. So these are embryologically both of the parietal visceral layers. They are coming from the mesoderm. The thing is, inside them develops a cavity, and this cavity is actually your intracoelomic cavity, which is actually filled with the peritoneal fluid, the pleural or the pericardial fluid. Now, if you understood this much of anatomy, then you have to also appreciate that this somatic layer is going close to the ectoderm, which is forming outside body wall, the epidermis over here. It's towards the skin, that is your body wall. This endodermal layer or this splanchnic layer is actually going towards the viscera. Viscera is your gut tube or any part of the abdominal viscera, as we are talking of peritoneum. So therefore what happens is that the somatic layer which is forming the parietal, it forms a part of abdominal wall. And as we already covered up the abdominal wall, the nerve supply of the whole abdominal wall is through all of those nerves, which are basically our intercostal nerves and the L1. So parietal peritoneum over here is a part of abdominal wall, so it is supplied by the somatic nerves, because in the abdominal wall it starts from skin and ends at the parietal layer. We have done a video on the abdominal wall also. Now somatic nerve, so it is going to be pain sensitive, because if your skin is pain sensitive, then the parietal peritoneum is also supplied by the same nerve. Now this splanchnic layer, which is forming the visceral peritoneum over here, is close to the viscera, and you know the endoderm over here, which is forming the viscera. What is the nerve supply? These are autonomic nervous system. Why autonomic nervous system? Gut part, smooth muscles, they are not under our control. Autonomic nervous system. So the same ANS is going to supply the visceral layer. So these are what? These are pain insensitive. They are sensitive to stretch or distension only. Okay, they are sensitive to stretch or distension. So embryologically, these 2 layers, the outer parietal and the inner visceral layer, are different. Although they are coming from the mesoderm, one is coming from the somatic layer, one is coming from the splanchnic layer. So one has adjusted itself to the environment of the viscera. One has adjusted itself to the environment which is just around it, that is the wall, that is the ectodermal derivative. So this is the basic difference of these 2. Okay, now let us move from here and try to understand that what else is occurring inside this. So for that we need to understand, and then for that we can also make up a transverse section. So before making up a transverse section, let us try to understand that we are discussing peritoneum. Why are we discussing peritoneum? Important layer, contains the layers, and it is actually smoothing out all the activities. So how it is smoothing out? Let us try to understand. Supposedly this is the gut tube. This is the gut tube, embryologically gut tube, and anterior layer is this anterior body wall. This is the posterior body wall. Okay, this is the posterior body wall, that is your anterior body wall. Now this gut tube can't be left hanging on like this, so it is actually connected to the posterior body wall by this double layered fold, this double layered fold of peritoneum. And also the lower part of foregut is connected to the anterior body wall by this double layered fold of peritoneum. So obviously it is anterior, so we call it as a ventral. Over here we call it as a mesogastrium, or just meanwhile we talk of the mesentery. And this whole double layered fold of peritoneum connecting the gut to the posterior abdominal wall will be known as the dorsal mesentery. Dorsal mesentery. Now let us understand how it is functioning. To understand how it is functioning, what we need to do is we need to take a TS from here to understand the basics of it. That is a transverse section. So now if we take a transverse section, how is it going to show to us? Is suppose we take a TS, and the TS, we take a TS, so it is like this circle over here. Okay, that is the anterior part, that is the posterior part. In the center, let us assume that we have a part of the gut. Let us assume we have a part of gut. Now we are trying to draw this parietal peritoneum. So parietal peritoneum, which is close to the abdominal wall. Okay, so this outside is what we have this as the wall. So that is our parietal peritoneum, which is running on towards like this. Okay, now what will happen, this parietal peritoneum will actually try to merge, and it will form a double layered fold, which will now actually surround this viscera over here, which is now going to surround this viscera. So if we try to label it again, this was our gut, that was the wall already labeled. This part of the peritoneum, which is close to the outside, remember that balloon and that fist, that is going to be your parietal layer, because it is just inside the wall. This part of the peritoneum which is surrounding the gut, that is your visceral peritoneum, and this double layered fold is known as a mesentery. It is always a double layered fold. We can call it a mesentery. If it is around the small intestine, we will call it a mesocolon. If it is surrounding the colons like transverse mesocolon or segment mesocolon, we will also call it as omentum when it is between the organs, like between liver and stomach. We call it as an omentum between stomach and transverse colon. Omentum. We will also call it as ligaments. Now it is not the ligaments of the joints. These ligaments are again your double layered fold of peritoneum, like gastrosplenic ligament, phrenicocholic ligament, lienorenal ligament, all those ligaments. So all those things, they mean the same, double layered fold of peritoneum. Now why? Why do we need this double layered fold of peritoneum? For that you have to understand, this was the anterior and posterior. Posteriorly you have this big vessel which is known as aorta. To the right of this aorta, what we have another big vein over here, that is IVC. Okay, not IVC is not required over here, just to make it. Inside the vertebral column we have the spinal cord, and also over here we have the development of the lymphatic channels over here. I hope you can see these lymphatic channels. So what this mesentery is doing is that it is helping in the passage of the arteries. It is helping in the passage of the veins, normally not into the IVC, but yes, portal vein will be formed. It will help in the passage of the nerves from this double layered fold. It will help in the passage of this lymphatics that will pass from here. So what is happening is that this double layered fold of peritoneum over here is forming a passageway for what? For the vessels, for the lymphatics, and for the nerves. Okay, it will also be a site for accumulation of the fat. Remember the mesenteric fat. So mesenteric fat is also there. Lymphatics, you may also have some lymph nodes. So that is the basic role. Now why do you need this passage? You try to understand what I told you, is that a small intestine, if we take the whole intestine, it is around 8 meters. 8 meters is 800 centimeters. A 6-foot person is not even 2 meters. And you imagine the 8-meter gut inside your abdominal cavity, which is moving slightly with peristalsis. Okay, and you have other organs also, like liver, like kidneys, like pancreas, and so on, and spleen. So all those organs inside your abdominal cavity, and they are slightly moving. just to support them, so that when they move, their vessels don't entangle between between with each other. So there's normal safe secured passage is formed by this mesentery, so that these vessels, the nerves, the lymphatics can easily pass without the risk of them being entangled with each other means the adjacent vessels, because there's millions and trillions of the capillaries in the vessel which are running, but this mesentery tries to help us out. Why it is more on the posterior side? Because we have the basic aorta, the vertebral column, the veins, the lymphatics are on the posterior side. So therefore we have this as the posterior, that is the dorsal mesentery, which is present throughout all the parts of the gut, that is the foregut, midgut and hindgut. That is one of the major roles of having this mesentery or this peritoneum. Mesentery is a double layered fold of peritoneum only. Now, when in embryonic life, as we discussed a video on the fetal circulation, that from this umbilicus there is a vein which is carrying the oxygenated blood. That was your left umbilical vein. So during embryonic life, we have a vessel that was the lifeline of the all of us embryos. That was our lifeline, and that lifeline during embryonic period was our left umbilical vein. For fetal circulation, you can go through the previous videos. We discussed the fetal circulation over there. So therefore, when this left umbilical vein was going during embryonic life from placenta located outside to inside of the embryo, this needed a support of again a double layered fold that was given off by a small part of the ventral mesentery over there, which in adults is known as your falciform ligament. In adults is known as falciform ligament. And this left umbilical vein in adults, it becomes your ligamentum teres. So therefore you have ventral mesentery only at the lower part of foregut, because it is not needed over here. Why? Because the major vessels are located posteriorly. Your vessels, the nerves, the whole spinal cord located posteriorly. Okay, so there is dorsal mesentery everywhere, but ventral mesentery only its concept is for the embryonic life. Okay, so these are your two parts of mesentery, visceral and the parietal mesentery, and the space between them, that is your peritoneal space or your peritoneal cavity or peritoneal space. That may look very big, but remember it is a slit like space only. It is a very small slit like space only. And this will do what? This will see there will be lot of visceras over here. Just hypothetically, if we try to make over here with the dotted lines, there will be lot of cut sections of the gut, but they won't be giving friction to each other. They will be moving easy, smoothly. They'll even be rubbing against each other, but that rubbing will be between the peritoneum. So the work is smooth. That is the role of peritoneum. And also all the vessels, nerves, lymphatics are passing away fine. So there is no confusion over here. Now after we understood this, then as we have seen this gut which was totally surrounded by the visceral peritoneum, so these sort of organs are known as intraperitoneal organs. What are these known as? Intraperitoneal organs. There will be few organs. Let me just make this organ over here, say this organ over here. Let us suppose this is a right kidney. So this is RK, that is right kidney. Now this RK or right kidney is only surrounded by this peritoneum on its anterior side. Therefore these sort of organs are known as retroperitoneal. Retro means behind, intra means inside. So intraperitoneal and retroperitoneal. So by this diagram only you can imagine very easily that which organs are more mobile. Obviously one who is having these strings. These double layered fold of peritoneum are like the strings. So when you fly a kite, you have that string. So if you have the string, your kite can go anywhere in the sky. So therefore these intraperitoneal organs which are more mobile, they have more mobility. And if they are just behind that curtain of peritoneum, they will be very less mobile. These retroperitoneal are very less mobile organs. Now we need to know what are these retroperitoneal organs and what are the name of intraperitoneal. Just at least the names are necessary. But one more thing over here is that supposedly there was this gut, this part of the gut which was actually during the initial development it was intraperitoneal, but during the development this organ, this part of the gut along with its mesentery and this visceral peritoneum, it fell back onto one side. So much so that finally what happened, finally this organ over here which was intraperitoneal in the beginning became retroperitoneal because of the fusion of the visceral peritoneum of this with the parietal peritoneum over here. So these sort of organs, which were initially intra, but during development only, not later on, they fell onto one side and then they fused. These are also retroperitoneal because these have normally become retroperitoneal. But these sort of organs, if this organ we try to make again over here, that it went from here to here. So these sort of organs are retro, no doubt about it, but they will be known as secondary retroperitoneal. And these who were from the beginning they were retro, they are known as primary retroperitoneal. So primary retroperitoneal, secondary retroperitoneal, and intraperitoneal. What we need to understand more, that is very crucial and very important, try to listen carefully. Once you open any abdominal cavity, you will be like surprised to see so many things lying on your OT table. Which structure is this, which viscera is this. Therefore this basic embryology is needed for you to understand. Not embryology, but basic idea, basic concept of the organs is needed. So what we discussed till now was that we have some of the intraperitoneal organs. Then we said, okay, we have some secondary retroperitoneal organs. Then we said, okay, we have some primary retroperitoneal organs as well. So this is the sequence in which the organs are lying from anterior to posterior. Means once you open up the abdominal cavity from the front, we will be first encountering the intraperitoneal organs. Behind it you will have the secondary retroperitoneal, but between them, what would be this layer? Between them you will have this as the peritoneum, the parietal peritoneum. Then behind this peritoneum, first you will have the secondary, and then you will have the primary retroperitoneal organs. So what are the examples of this? Just going through the examples. The organs which were from the beginning, which were retroperitoneal, primary retroperitoneal organs, what are these? These are our most importantly kidney. With the kidneys you have the suprarenal glands, adrenals. Along the kidney you have the ureter. Then you have the major vessels, basically our aorta and our IVC. So these are all our primary retroperitoneal. They were retroperitoneal from the very initial beginning. So where will they lie? They will be lying just most posteriorly. So they all will be sitting over the posterior abdominal wall. They actually sitting over the posterior abdominal wall. Sitting over means, what is this posterior abdominal? It is formed by the vertebral column. Which vertebral column? Obviously the lumbar vertebral column. Along with it, the muscles around the vertebral column. What are these muscles? Psoas major, the quadratus lumborum. Let me just write over here one muscle, psoas major. So most posterior you have the posterior abdominal wall. Onto them are sitting these primary retroperitoneal organs. Okay, which organs will be lying in front of them? Those are going to be your secondary retroperitoneal organs, which were intraperitoneal to start with, but somehow they fell down to a side. Why they are falling down? Because of the whole midgut rotation, the foregut rotation, the whole increase in the length of the intestine. So you don't have so much space. So the other organs, they start to push the posterior organs so much so that the peritoneum fuses. So what is the secondary retroperitoneal? We have the duodenum. Except that initial half of the first part of duodenum. Then we have the pancreas. Okay, then we have what? Then we have, say, ascending colon. We also have the descending colon. Okay, normally these structures. So these will be retroperitoneal, that is behind the peritoneum, but they will be lying slightly in front of the level at which you have the kidneys and the aortas and the IVC. These are your secondary retroperitoneal organs. Now whatever is left, that we need not to memorize it, whatever is left falls under intraperitoneal organs. So they are those organs which are completely surrounded by the peritoneum. Exactly, not completely, because at one side you also need a place for it to develop mesentery. So not completely, but yes, roughly around 99% surrounded by peritoneum. Okay, so these are intraperitoneal organs. Examples of these are simple. Now what is left? Liver we have the spleen, we have the stomach. Okay, duodenum included. Then duodenum over here secondary. Then we have the jejunum. Then we have the ileum. then you have the appendix. Okay, then you can also include a cecum, a small part of cecum. Then you have the transverse colon, then you have the sigmoid colon. These are the structures in the abdominal. We are not talking of the pelvic structures, because what happens is that the when we talk of the abdomen, the peritoneum is actually going like this, going like this, and it is actually taking a curve above the pelvic organ. So the pelvic viscera is located over here. To be exact, it would be called as infraperitoneal. Infra means inferior or located below. Infraperitoneal. Okay, so yes, few areas of the pelvic viscera, like the upper borders of the or the upper surfaces or the upper part of the rectums and all, they would be in touch with peritoneum, but not all the pelvic viscera. So they are lying below it. Now, as we talk of this whole abdominal cavity, as we talk of this whole, this peritoneal layers which are surrounding it, we have to understand a basic difference between males and females. Is that in males it is a closed sac. It is a closed sac, means everything is closed. But if you talk of females, then the fallopian tubes are actually opening over here. Okay, fallopian tubes are opening over here. Females, it is a open area. It is not a closed, it is open area, because with the fallopian tubes they will be connecting the uterus with the uterus to the vagina, to the external environment. So in males it is a closed sac. In females it is not a closed. Therefore, with the infection or any sort of pathogen that can come through the genital organs, and that could lead to peritonitis. This could be a cause of peritonitis, because peritoneum is directly in touch. Okay, so this was a basic idea of all this part. To just recapitulate the things, remember what is peritoneum, where it is, what is the role of it. So just imagine the long structures inside this, so to smoothen out the activity so that they move around, and when they're moving around, their vessels, nerves, lymphatics, they don't entangle to each other. For that reason we have this peritoneum. During development, some organs placed behind peritoneum, so they are not that much mobile. Some later on go behind peritoneum, secondary retroperitoneal, but they will lie anterior to the primary retroperitoneal, and some are intraperitoneal. When you talk of these cavities, it is a slit like space. So normally in normal individuals, you and me, it will be a slit like space. But when the fluid starts to build in it, like your ascites, like in your cirrhosis of liver, your ascites or any collection of fluid, say in a pleural effusion, in the pericardial effusion, in the peritoneal fluid effusion, then that slit like cavity, then it starts to enlarge. Then we have to do that tapping and the therapeutic and diagnostic procedures. So that is your peritoneum. Remember, embryology also divided into two parts. That is also very important. Okay, so this was, guys, a basic concept of peritoneum. I hope you liked the video. If you like, you can press on the like button. If you have not yet subscribed, kindly consider subscribing it. Share the video also to the needy ones. Channel is Anatomy Explained. Thank you very much. Myself, Dr. Ankit Khandelwal, Anatomy Explained.